This is it right here.
Combining a team of reporters, columnists, and commentators.
Don't you ever talk about me!
Are you serious?
Jack Ebling has brought thought-provoking discussion.
What are you doing?
That's a damn coaching mistake!
Opinion.
The customer is the one who decides when the future gets here.
Oh, no! The ship is on fire!
You have to check the report.
Are you kidding me?
That game was fixed.
And overall infotainment.
I'll take Jim Harbaugh.
What has he done?
Crazy Cooter coming at you!
Quiet, please. In exactly 15 seconds, we'll be on the air.
Thanks, big fella.
Don't you ever come back here again!
No arguments. Those are called ass tunes.
So buckle up.
You talking to me?
It's time for The Drive with Jack Ebling.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little taller on radio.
Great afternoon, Greater Lansing and beyond, and welcome to The Drive with Jack, the Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer today, Alex Eward, sitting in for Boston Rob, bringing our closer out of the bullpen here for this week. 80 degrees today, a beautiful day in mid-Michigan. Perfect day for baseball, Alex, something that I know is near and dear to your heart. And our first guest is with us. Want to welcome in Michigan State baseball coach Jake Boss Jr. Jake, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jack. How are you?
Don't you wish you'd had these temperatures back in March?
Yeah, that would have been nice, Jack. It's a beautiful day, and, I guess I joke with Will Tiemann, it's always a beautiful day for baseball, but, when the temperatures today are what they are, it sure beats March for sure.
Well, it's certainly a beautiful day in Chicago, and for a team that you know well, and your favorite, I believe, the Chicago White Sox, talking about where they are in the American League standings as they prepared to host the Tigers this weekend. Whoever would have thought the White Sox, a team that lost 120 games 2 years ago, would be above 500 and second place in the American League Central Division?
Yeah, it's been a rough couple of years there, Jack. But you got to believe, I guess, right?
Right.
And so, always been a big White Sox fan, and I was fortunate, I guess, to have coached Chris Getz, their general manager now. So
yeah,
we got a little bit of a connection there as well. And Chris is a great baseball mind, and I'm sure he's going to do a nice job and has done a nice job up to this point. It's a long season, but those guys look like they're playing well right now.
And Jake, did that passion for the Pale Hose come from your dad?
It did. When I was my dad grew up on the south side of Chicago, was always a big White Sox fan, and when I was a kid, we would go into the city numerous times in the summer and try to catch a White Sox game and Bear games and things like that. So yeah, I've always been a White Sox fan as far back as I can remember.
Well, it seems a little strange that the White Sox and the Cubs both have had good seasons, although the Cubs had this horrendous losing streak after two 10-game winning streaks up and down. And do you think that there are Cubs fans now who are, if not thrilled for the White Sox, at least glad they're relevant, or is the relationship there that you can't want both teams to win?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a great question, Jack. Not living in Chicago, it's a tough one for me to answer. I know, for me, I don't cheer against the Cubs, but I don't really pay much attention to them either, unless they're it's playoff baseball or something like that. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask that question to, and to be quite honest with you, I haven't had a chance to pay much attention to anything as far as big league baseball is concerned because of our season. So we're just now kind of getting back into the swing of things here, and I'll start paying a little bit closer attention now.
Jake, we are 1/4 of the way through the 21st century. Thinking back to the end of the 20th, say 1998 or 99, if I had told you that the White Sox were going to be world champions in 2005 and the Cubs were going to do the same thing and end that incredible drought in 2016, you'd have taken that, right?
Yeah, probably, to be honest with you. I go back to, I think it was 1993 or 94 maybe when we had the strike.
94,
the White Sox were in first place and rolling. I think they had the best team in baseball, in my opinion. And then the season was cut short because of the strike, and so that one was always tough. But I go back all the way to I think 1986 or 80. I think it was 86 or 83. I think it was 86 when the White Sox won the division and lost to Baltimore in the playoffs, and Baltimore ended up winning the whole thing. So, you'll take them when you can get them. It's hard to win.
The strike was cruel in a lot of ways, Jake, and prepare, you might have another one next year. But the White Sox had to wait then another 11 years. How about the Montreal Expos that year, who were having the best year in their history? They were by far the best team in the National League. And they don't even have a chance to go back and get a championship.
No, that's right. And there was, I think ESPN did a special on the Expos in the last season, or maybe it was a Netflix thing. I can't remember. But it was really, really interesting. And I didn't know a lot, or I didn't, I guess, remember a lot of those. A lot of those things that happened in Montreal with the Expos. But now they don't even have a chance. It's baseball's gone up there, unfortunately.
Jake, you mentioned Chris Getz. How does a franchise have that kind of turnaround? And let's say the White Sox could win just 85 games this year. Say they could be 85-67. That's almost half as many losses as they had 2 years earlier. What has to go right for that kind of a turnaround?
Well, you got to stay healthy, I think, and you got to obviously you have to have a good farm system because, you're going to have to plug some guys in and bring some guys up and send some guys down and things like that. But I think staying healthy, especially on the mound, is the biggest thing. And I think that's what's hurting the Tigers right now.
Right.
Is, unfortunately, some of the injuries that they have. But it's a long season and it's a grind, and I think it's probably easier to turn it around now than maybe it has been in the past, and I think it's similar to college. With our transfer portal and NIL and things like that. If you have the money, you can go out and completely change your roster and the scope of your team, and then even in a lot of cases, if you have a couple good drafts, but you can also change your minor league system as well through trades and free agent signings and things like that. And so I think at least it looks like now, up to this point, the White Sox have done that, and I certainly think it is easier now to kind of flip things. It's not easy, but it's easier. And just because of that reason, I think you have to have a balance of still being able to develop players and being able to build from within, I think, in order to maintain some success. But, if you have the money and you're willing to go out and spend it, you can do it.
Jake, I was talking to baseball historian Gary Gillette, and he said, the White Sox were supposed to do this a few years ago, and they had such a bright, young talent base, and then it didn't happen, and they had to break it up, and now it's kind of been a surprise. But I want to talk about two Chicago players, one a rookie, and one will be a rookie pretty soon. When you think of what Murakami has done coming in this year and just set the record for the most home runs by a major league player before the end of May. You think about 19. I remember when Mark McGwire got that, and everyone was so excited with Big Mac. And now to have 20 home runs, and he's still got a couple of days to go. What is Murakami doing here? He's got that left-handed stroke, and he's not batting for a high average, but he's sure putting the ball in the seats.
Well, yeah, I think that's what they got him for. That's what they're paying him to do. Is they're not paying him to hit 300. They're paying him to hit a bunch of home runs, and I think that's where the metrics and the analytics part of the game have really changed in a lot of organizations where you may hit below 200 or right around 200, but if your hits land over the fence, then I think some would tell you that they're just as productive as maybe a 300 or a 350 hitter, I guess. And so that's still a tough one for me to swallow. I'm an older guy and I'm probably a little bit more old school, but it seems to be working in this case. I don't know that you can have too many of those guys in your lineup, but if you have some juice and there's a couple guys on, a 3-run home run is certainly a lot more productive than a base hit. So, I think that's just part of the analytics part of the game.
Jake, whether you are getting on base with a single or a walk or however you're getting on base, the point is you're getting on base. And on-base percentage now has in many ways taken over for batting average as an indicator of your offensive efficiency. But you're right. I've seen a lot of guys who can go 1 for 4, strike out 3 times, and if they get an extra base hit, they're pretty happy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think, on base percentage and then, OPS and on base, plus slugging, are the 2 most important, I think, numbers and stats in the game today. So those are obviously very important. And if you're, if your slug is high, your OPS or your on base percentage maybe doesn't have to be as high, and vice versa. And so, but that OPS number is a big one, and I think it's probably a decent indicator of offensive production.
Jake, I was talking about this with Fred Heumann, who's kind of a baseball Neanderthal. No one loves the game more, but in his mind, if you don't bunt once an inning, you're not playing the game right. But the idea that the power aspect of this game is so important, when did that start to change? Do you remember when people got away from being a 300 hitter? You don't even find many of them anymore.
No, you don't, and I think you can go back. It's a great question, Jack. Maybe 20 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that, but I think it probably started with maybe Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and carried over into Barry Bonds and guys like that. And now, especially with some of the specialization in the game, and you have some of these big, strong, physical guys that are capable of hitting the ball a long way. The more the ball goes over the fence, I think the more guys, more or the easier it is to realize that, those runs are kind of what it's all about.
Right.
If you can get, 1 run with 1 swing as opposed to 1 run with probably 3 swings, if you go 3 straight singles versus, 1 home run, I think, obviously you don't need as many hits and to have the same kind of production.
Jake, you mentioned Barry Bonds, and a lot of people know him for other things, but he was so good at getting on base and drawing walks. A little bit like if you look at Ted Williams' statistics and you say, well, he didn't get 3,000 hits. But look how many times he would walk. Bonds in his prime was walking at least once a game. Teams were pitching so carefully to him. So I guess there are a lot of ways to get back to home plate.
Well, there are. The reverse is true then, too. I think if you think home runs are that important and you don't really care about the single, then, you're on the defensive side of it, you're not trying to give up a home run. And so if you can, be a little bit more picky, if you can nibble just a little bit more, maybe you don't care about a walk, and the next guy's going to fly out, and then maybe you're out of the inning type of thing. So I think the converse is true then too on the defensive side of it.
I was surprised, Jake, talking to someone down at Comerica last year, and I said, "Man, Riley Green is striking out so much." He said I'd much rather have a strikeout than a ground ball with runners on base because 1 out is better than 2.
Yeah, there's some truth to that, and I think we've had a couple players like that. I remember for us, Brock Vradenberg was a 3rd-round draft pick, and a big 6'7" left-handed hitting first baseman that, his first 2 years hit a lot of ground balls, and we finally told him, look, man, if you don't get the ball in the air, we're gonna have a hard time putting you in because those ground balls are outs and they're double plays. Yeah. And so if that's what we're gonna do, let's try to hit the ball over the fence. And, all of a sudden it took off for him his junior year and was a lot of doubles and a lot of home runs and, was a 3rd-round draft pick because of it.
I want to talk about a 1st-round draft pick, a 1-1 pick coming up. Most people, in fact, I don't know anyone right now who doesn't think Rock Chalowski will be the first player selected by the Chicago White Sox. They have that pick. And a lot of people think that moving forward, adding to this young nucleus, he's going to be the White Sox version of Bobby Witt Jr. You saw him up close, and you did a pretty good job against him here at McLean Stadium. What can you tell us about him and what his potential might be?
Well, I think potential-wise, it's through the roof. I mean, he is a special talent. It's a true five-star or five-tool player, where, he runs very well. He swings the bat well. He can hit for average. He's capable of hitting for power, at least at our level. He's got over 20 home runs.
Yeah.
He throws well. He's got a cannon for an arm, and he defends extremely well. He's a defensive player of the year a year ago.
Right.
And the player of the year in our conference, back-to-back years. So obviously very talented young man, very confident in what he does. He plays with a maturity that you don't see a lot of in our game. And so I think, he's going to be a very special player. It wouldn't, it wouldn't surprise anybody if he's the first pick in the first round. And I think probably well-deserved.
Let's talk about college baseball this season. Jake, you mentioned your team and terrific performance at the Big Ten tournament out in Omaha, and they get a couple of big wins there. Got to play USC in that would have been a 4-5 matchup. It turned out to be a 4-12 matchup. And you ran into a team that was rested and had a pretty good pitcher on the mound that day.
Yeah, we did, Jack. I was, before the tournament started, I wanted our guys to understand that they did earn their way in there. We had to get some help, but, at the same time, I think the help that we needed was just because of the way the schedule set up, and we played 30 Big Ten games just like everybody else, and so I don't feel like we backed our way into anything, and I thought it was important for our players again to understand that, and I think they took that to heart, and they went out, played with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and opened up the first game against Purdue, I think with 4 in the first and 3 in the second.
Yeah.
Before you know it, we're up 7-0, and I think our guys really wanted to make a statement there, and did that, and won a really good game, beat a very good team against Purdue, and then played well against Iowa and won a close game there, and earned ourselves a day off, and then thanks for coming, but here's USC with arguably the best left-handed arm in the country, and so pitcher of the year in the conference, and maybe the best breaking ball in the country, and so for our efforts we got that, and USC is a very talented team, and they got out early on us, and with that arm on the mound, he went 4 innings, and then we got a rain delay, which ended his day, which I thought, hopefully that helps us. And, we just, they went to the pen and brought in another, power arm that was really good. And so, we got behind there and ended up that, that ended our season. But I was really proud of our guys of how they handled themselves at the tournament. I think, first of all, it's a first-class group of guys that represented Michigan State in an unbelievable way. And, I think we went out there and, again, played with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder and turned some heads and surprised some people. And, that's what our job was. And I felt like we did it.
Would have been nice, Jake, to have that rain delay 40 minutes earlier.
Yeah, it would have. We knew the rain was coming, and, we had a little bit of a delay when we started. Yeah. And then, we knew it was coming, and we were, quite honestly, trying to slow the game down a little bit to, hopefully get it there, but we weren't able to do it. And so, you tip your hat to those guys. So a very good team and a well-deserved 2 seed in their regional.
Jake, there are ups and downs in any baseball season, but the way yours started against Louisville, and that was about all you could have asked for. And then there were dips and moments that were good, moments that were disappointing, but then to finish as strong as you did. How would you describe the season?
Well, yeah, up and down for sure. I mean, I asked a lot out of our guys with the schedule that we put together early, and we went and took 2 out of 3 at a really good Louisville team, and and that was an awesome weekend. But the schedule you could arguably say the schedule got tougher from there, and so we had Texas next, and we had maybe a 12-game stretch there where. I think we went 1-11 and lost to some really good teams, and maybe some teams with not maybe as big of names, but very, very good ball clubs that had a lot of time to practice outside before they started playing, and so we were 3-13 or 3-14, I believe, at one point, and I think finished the year 24-32, and so from that point, it was kind of win one, lose one, win two, lose one. We never really won,
right.
I think, more than 3 in a row, and I don't think we ever lost more than 3 in a row. And so that can be a little frustrating, because you're right there and you feel like you're close, and we just couldn't feel. We had a hard time feeling like we could get over the hump, and we were probably a little thin on the mound, and asked some things out of some guys that maybe weren't quite ready yet. But I think that is going to serve us well, down the road in the future. So we'll get some young guys in there, get them developed, and hopefully that pays dividends down the road.
We're talking with Michigan State head baseball coach Jake Boss Jr. Jake, when you finish strong and you have success at the end of a season, what does that mean as a carryover for your players heading into next year? I know that's a ways away, but moving into the summer, the psychological aspects of what you're capable of doing, what's the effect of that?
Yeah, I think it's all positive. I think the end of the year and the exit meetings take a little bit of a different tone. I think the portal is a real thing, and we'll have some guys that go in the portal, and we'll get some guys out of the portal, and that's just the nature of college baseball. I don't think last year I think the average number of players that were in the portal per team at the Division I level was somewhere around 10. And, I don't think we're going to have that many. Yeah. I'm sure we'll have a few here next week when the portal does open. But, I think for the young guys, I think it gives them something to build on and some encouragement going into summer ball and kind of a little bit of a pep in their step, hopefully, when they get back here in the fall and we start playing fall baseball.
Jake, I've had this discussion a couple of times with Tom Izzo and saw Pat Fitzgerald yesterday talking about it. When players go into the portal now, do you think it's mostly financial? It's money? They're shopping? Is it because they're blocked at their current program and maybe they don't see playing time or the role they want, or they're just unhappy and want a new start?
I think it could be a little bit of both, but I think, in our game is probably a lot different than football and basketball. Yeah. There is some money flying around there. It certainly isn't to the extent that those sports have. So, for us, I think it's a little bit of all of it. And I think it just depends on each kid's situation and the school that they're at. And, there are guys that maybe aren't getting as much playing time as they thought that jump in the portal. I think that's the case, with a couple of our guys last year. Yeah. That did get in the portal. I think some of those guys are, think that they can, get a nice paycheck or an increase in scholarship money, which is entirely possible at a lot of places. And then there are some guys that I think just don't like the situation that they're in and are looking for a change. So, I think it could be one or all of those scenarios, depending on the player.
There are no $3 to $5 million shortstops in college baseball, right?
Well, not that I know of. There are some guys that are making some good money, but not $3 to $5 million. Yeah. Not that I know of.
All right. I want to talk about the NCAA baseball tournament. And when the selections were made, a lot of people thought the Big Ten would get more teams in than it did. Did that surprise you? And did you think that was an injustice in some ways?
Yes to both. I think Purdue with 37 wins had a legitimate chance. I know people were talking about Michigan, although I think they won 32 games or something like that.
Yeah, closer to 500.
I thought that might have been a bit of a long shot. But the problem with all of it, and, even my opinion on it, is you don't know what the committee, the search committee, or the tournament committee is looking for as the most important metric, because this year it seemed to be strength of schedule. Last year and the years before that, it seemed to be RPI. There were times where teams played too many home games, or you didn't win enough on the road, or whatever. And so there's no real set metric that we can kind of look to in order to give ourselves the best chance. But I do think there is a bias toward Northern baseball in a negative way, and I think that does hurt our conference. And I do think we should have had more than 4 teams, in the conference. I do think USC should have been a regional host, with an RPI in the top 10 and 41 wins. I, for the life of me, don't understand why they weren't hosting a regional this weekend. And so I do think there's a negative bias toward baseball in our league, and I think it's too bad. I think, it's probably going to take a little bit more time. But people are gonna have to realize that we play good baseball, in our conference, and we are limited with the weather. We are limited in some cases with who we can play because of the weather, and I think that does hurt us when it goes into the committee's room, and there's nothing we can do about that. And so I think some things need to change, in order for us to garner that respect that we all feel that we deserve. And so it's too bad. I feel bad for our players, but it is what it is, and we're going to keep fighting the good fight.
Jake, sometimes at the end, splitting hairs between teams. Do you think that your win over Purdue might have put the Boilermakers on the sideline?
Yeah, it's possible. I know they lost twice in the tournament. They lost a heartbreaker to UCLA in extra innings. They had the lead and ended up, I think, got walked off in the ninth. And I think had they won that game, they probably that would have pushed their RPI up higher and given them 38 wins. And I think if for whatever reason, I think the wins or losses at the end of the year are looked at and maybe scrutinized a little bit more than the wins and losses at the beginning of the year, which is too bad. I don't think that should be the case.
I know another Big Ten team that could have or should have beaten UCLA twice, and since the Bruins only lost once in conference play, you can be pretty proud of that weekend, as disappointing as the final scores were. Do you have a prediction for the NCAA tournament? Do you think that this is UCLA's year to get it done? The Big Ten has won so many national championships in all sports, Jake. Why not baseball?
Yeah, why not baseball? For sure. I think you look at, teams that could get back to Omaha. I think all four of the teams in our league that are in, I think have a realistic chance.
Yeah.
With Nebraska hosting a regional.
Yeah.
Oregon hosting a regional, UCLA hosting a regional, and USC is a 2 seed. I think they all have legitimate chances to get through to a super regional, and then once you're in a super regional, it's best of 3. I think Texas, we played Texas the second weekend of the year. It's as good a pitching staff. Them and UCLA are two as good a pitching staffs as we saw, all year long. I think Texas has a legitimate chance. But it's one of those things. That's where our game is so different, so much different than maybe football and basketball. I was flipping around today, and at one point, 4th ranked Auburn was down 10-0 to UW Milwaukee. Wow. And I think they were in a rain delay the last I checked, and UW Milwaukee was up 11-5. And so, that score may have changed, in the last, half an hour or so.
Yeah.
But, our game is a crazy game, and everybody has a pitcher that can beat anybody, on a good day, and that's just how our game is. It's not like it would be the equivalent of basketball having 3 point guards and you can only play one of them in one game,
right? And
then you have to play another one in the next game, and then a third one in the third game, and that's kind of what our sport is. So it literally does change from day to day.
Jake, good luck to you and your team with the portal comings and goings, and enjoy the action this week from Rate Field.
All right. Thanks so much, Jack. Appreciate it.
Jake Boss Jr. We will be right back, and we're going to talk with Connor Eargood of the Detroit News about Michigan State football, basketball, Jeremy Fears Jr., Anton Bonk, and what's ahead for Pat Fitzgerald's team. Coming up next on The Drive with Jack.
Jack Ebling here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graf of Okemos. Spring is here, and so is good news for lease customers.
You got that right, Jack. Pretty exciting news, both at Nissan and Chevy. We have a lease pull ahead starting right now. So if you're bored with your lease, too many miles, close to too many miles, you just want to get out because of a high payment, bring it in. We'll get you out of your lease and get you into something more exciting.
Stop and see Matt and the gang at Graf of Okemos. They're making friends.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Meadowar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our team of school bus drivers and attendants. Visit deanjobs.com to see all openings. Dean Transportation provides paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license, increased starting pay, comprehensive benefits, and flexible schedules with no weekend shifts. No experience needed. Apply today at deanjobs.com and train for back to school season. That's DEAN jobs.com.
Jeremy, I gotta ask, how do you always know where to go on the weekends?
Easy. One North. It's basically my cheat code.
What's going on there?
Live music every Friday and Saturday night, DJ trivia during the week. There's always something happening, Jack.
So I don't have to keep texting you for plans?
Nope. Just follow all 3 One North locations on social media. Lineups, times, everything's right there.
That might actually simplify my life.
That's the goal. When you're looking for something to do, One North's the move.
All right. See you there this weekend.
Are you passionate about college sports? Foster Swift Sports Talk is your go-to podcast dedicated to addressing the hottest topics in college athletics, including recruiting practices, NIL, the trade portal, collectives, and revenue generation.
Join us as we bring you insights from student athletes, college head coaches, administrators, and other industry leaders as they share their experiences in this rapidly changing arena.
Our mission is to share information and help educate student athletes, parents, coaches, and other stakeholders with the knowledge, resources, and strategies they need to make informed decisions and maximize each college athlete's potential for long-term success. Check out our latest episode where we're joined by Miss Michigan basketball Lily Williams to discuss her recruiting journey and her ultimate commitment to Michigan State. Like and subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook pages to watch all of our episodes, or you can give us a listen on any of your favorite podcasting platforms by simply searching Foster Swift Sports Talk. Until next time, I'm your host, Dave Russell.
Who knew? Fresh air is a destination. Breathe in the glacial carved canvas of northern Michigan's finest golf courses and have your breath taken away by scenic vistas from tee to green. The perfect place to perfect your game in more ways than one. The waves, woods, and wonder of Bel Air. Escape every day. Discover the magic of 90 holes at one resort. Shanty Creek Resort in Bel Air and online at shantycreek.com.
Welcome back. It is the Drive with Jack Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer, Alex Heward. Alex, you know a lot about baseball roles. What's it like to be announced as a pinch hitter for Boston Rob?
Hey, it's an honor. It's always an honor.
You're the first person who said that, but that's all right. That's all right. When you haven't produced shows, and you're probably doing that off and on all week, right? I mean, you have to slide behind the controls there for various podcasts and things.
Yeah, I do all the podcasting, and then this week, Michigan's big show was up in the Mackinac conference, policy conference. So Tony was on site there, so I was filling in for that as well this week. So yeah, I wear a lot of hats, kind of bounce around here and there.
They don't bring Michael Patrick Shields in for a command performance there from California?
No, yeah, he was there. He was there on site.
He was there.
Yep.
Okay. Important.
Oh yeah,
stuff,
it's a big
right?
deal for us. That's the big one.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like Connor's calling us.
Okay.
Well.
All right, great. We are going to be talking with Connor Eargood of the Detroit News in just a minute, I believe. We've been a barrage of text messages here trying to line up the schedule, and we told him about 4:30, so perfect. I'm very happy to welcome in one of the best young sports writers in the country, a guy who you never have to question his effort. Connor Eargood is everywhere, covering Michigan State football, basketball, hockey, other sports, you name it. and he doesn't even live in Lansing or East Lansing. He's got a commute involved in this. Connor, how you doing?
Good. Hey, can you be my agent?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I need one. I don't know if that would help you much. I can give you people who do a better job, but for people who don't understand what you go through, you're up in the Flint area, right?
Yep, absolutely. Proud Flintstone.
Yeah, when I think of the greats, Alex, involving Michigan State from Flint, you think of Don Coleman, and of course all the basketball, the Flintstones, and the national championship, and then at the bottom of the list, there's Connor Eargood coming in from Flint. Kind of like
it's good company.
Earl Robinson. There were a lot of them. So we got the news officially, Wednesday night, that Jeremy Fears Jr. was going to do the logical thing, the thing that seemed to make sense to just about everyone, and come back to Michigan State for a fourth season, although be it one of them was cut very short by the shooting in Chicago. But when you think about what that means to Michigan State's program, the impact of having arguably the best point guard in the country at Point Guard University with a head coach who is as point guard reliant as anyone in the country, how important was that decision?
Oh, I mean, this was the offseason. This one decision.
Yeah.
This is what it's all boiled down to.
Yeah.
This determines whether it's your average Michigan State Sweet 16 run versus a team that can actually win a national championship. And, with it being in Detroit, and Tom spoke earlier on Wednesday and made it seem like he expected Jeremy to make the right decision, but he spoke up at the Mackinac Policy Conference.
Right.
He wants to be there. You can believe that. And Dusty May, obviously, winning a championship in 26. There's a little fire there. Obviously, rivalry involved. And also, right, it's been a long time since 2000 and when those Flintstones were on the court that you previously mentioned. But no, it's, Jeremy in his third season as a starter, I think people can expect the world, right? He not only knows what he needs to improve, but he also knows what it takes to improve. And I think that's what he learned last year, right? He goes through the first season. Obviously, there's an athletic adjustment period coming off the shooting, and also just understanding what it takes to be a starting point guard in the Big Ten. He goes into that off season. He knows what he has to work on: the shooting, defense, some different areas, and he worked on them to some degree. He didn't come all the way that he wanted to,
right?
And I think that was something that Tom mentioned during the season. He learned to have that trust. He learned it wasn't lip service, right? And what it takes to actually work toward those things. I think having a strong NBA combine is like a carrot on a stick. Because if you have a strong combine, and considering the number of point guards in this class, right, it might be a little sparser next year. He could be a pretty high pick. He could be the first rounder that, he and his dad think he can be. Personally, I think he could be if he has the right season. So big things are expected. Should have a good group of guys to play with, to play around. Anton Bonk obviously also withdrew from the draft.
That's right.
That one was very much expected. But
right.
This is the off-season move for Michigan State, and now everything, all the good things, the hype, the intrigue of the season can follow.
Connor, all Tom Izzo wants is one more NCAA tournament win, one more than he had the last time the Final Four was at Ford Field. And he ran into North Carolina, the buzzsaw that the Tar Heels were in 2009. What do you think Jeremy Fears wants? What would make this a successful decision for him?
I mean, he wants a Final Four, and he said that much in Buffalo when I asked him about the breaking Magic Johnson's record against Louisville, right? 16 assists in an NCAA tournament game. It doesn't really get much better than that.
Yeah.
Even if his shooting percentage wasn't the greatest in that game, he was dealing. And he kind of shrugged it off and said, Final Fours and national championships are what it's about.
Yeah.
He's never going to place himself in that elite company until he has one. And I thought that was really astute, for him to say that, but also just a great observation of sort of knowing his role in this, legacy of great Michigan State point guards, and just legends overall. But I got to think that there's probably some records that he's eyeing. He's only 326 assists from breaking Cassius Winston's record for most assists in a career at Michigan State. And he had 328 last year, so it's possible.
Sure.
And obviously Braden Smith is probably, making the NCAA record untouchable in 1 year. Maybe if he came back next year as well,
right.
That would be on the table as well. And he has that year, so we could be having the same talk next year. But I really think the Final Four, being in Detroit, adds a little bit of weight to that as well. That, hey, this is local. This is right in your backyard. Everyone wants to make that. It's a short commute. The amount of fans there, it'd be Breslin East, but depending on the ticket prices and how things shake out there. But I think this is huge for Michigan State to have a chance to be there. No disrespect to Carlos Medlock Jr., and I think he's going to be a great player too.
Yeah.
Very sneaky in that class as an important role player. And considering how it looked when Jeremy wasn't on the court this year, I think that's huge to have. A really high potential backup that, Tom Izzo clearly has a lot of trust in, just from his visits and some of the recruiting zeitgeist. But this is a team that has a lot of pieces. Obviously, they have to fit in the court. And, it's a few months until we even see them in practice. So I don't want to speak too soon, but they have the pieces in June and May. We'll see if they have them in October, and then most importantly in March and April.
You talk about the Final Four in Detroit. Connor, I've done 22 Final Fours. I don't know if I am ready for a Final Four at Ford Field with Michigan and Michigan State.
I think it would break the state. I think it would genuinely. I can't even imagine the hotel prices. In downtown Detroit alone would be astronomical. The ticket prices, the tailgates. You wouldn't be able to elbow into a bar. Yeah. You wouldn't even be able to wait in line. It'd be wrapped around every block.
Right.
I think Michigan having some success. It's not a basketball school. It's very fair weather for that sport.
Mm-hmm.
But Dusty May has created a lot of intrigue for that program and a lot of attention nationally for an alumni base that loves to throw its money around. So I think that'll be involved. But Michigan State fans, the Final Four, it's been since 2019.
Yeah.
Football hasn't been to a bowl game.
That's right.
And since 21. So there's a lot of money saved up for fans to spend on something. And, the Elite Eight in Atlanta, how many fans did we see, right?
Yeah.
This one probably, there's going to be a raise in expenses, but it's not going to be a whole lot of travel and things for a lot of fans, especially if they're in, the Metro Detroit area.
Right. Drivable.
Look, they're going to show out for that if Michigan State makes it there. And I think that's what's so exciting about it is, especially if it's a backyard brawl. Imagine if it's the title game. Man.
I remember.
That's the stuff you dream about as a sports writer.
Connor, I remember in 2009 they had this pep rally at the Somerset Inn, I guess, and they were hanging off of the railings on upper levels of that. And I said to someone, like, do they have a fire marshal in this county? They said, no, they paid him off a long time ago. So, I'm sure we would have some of those kinds of things. Yes, exactly. Izzo always talks about program isn't about winning games. It's about hanging banners. And Jeremy is smart enough. He knows the tradition and the history here, and he sees what has happened. But he also sees the individual banners up there with the decision he made, the records that are within reach. And if he could carry Michigan State to a second Big Ten title and a trip to the Final Four, would you see his name and number being up there with all the greats from the past, and then maybe some like Denzel Valentine and Cassius Winston, and those banners are being made as we speak?
Yeah, I think somewhere down the line, I think for him it would have to be how things end, right?
Yeah.
Because, you look at how a guy like Trey Holloman probably had as much credit as anyone, given that 24-25 season, and then, sort of leaves in controversial fashion, and love Trey. But I think that goes to show you how legacy is so fickle, right? And the ending matters as much as the climax of it all.
Yeah.
I think Jeremy would belong in that company. I think, if he has the season that I think he expects, Tom expects, I think we as media expect, the Big Ten at large expects, the country, I think that would put him in that company. But it would have to be a season much like he just had, where, he's this great playmaker, and the shot would have to come along too. Especially the shot he creates for himself. But I think he 100% could be up in those rafters, but probably somewhere down the line that he's actually retired up there.
Yeah.
Unless they do a wave of him, because there's some guys that I think are a little overdue to join that company.
That's right.
But boy, it'll be a heck of a day if that is to happen, because he's been a remarkable athlete to cover. He's overcome so much.
Yeah.
Antics aside, in two incidents that I think have kind of taken over his reputation nationally.
Yeah.
Is a really good kid. So he's someone you pull for in a way, in an objective sense that you want to see do well.
Connor, you mentioned Anton Bonk, and coming in now it's 7-2. Ethan Taylor coming in at 7-1 3/4. Some people think he's going to be 7-3 by the time he's done growing. Michigan State's never had two players like that on the roster at the same time. Have you spoken with Anton Bonk?
I haven't, but I've spoken to his representation.
Okay. Well, we're going to see him soon over at Moneyball, I imagine, and the crowds are going to be massive over there because of the new players. They come to watch Coen Carr dunk, and they come to see players they haven't seen yet. And with this 4-player freshman class ranked among the top 5 in the country, and then with Bonk coming in from the portal, everyone kept saying Michigan State would never spend in the portal. They would never get a big in the portal. Well, I think a lot of people are going to be making their way over to Holt High School.
Yeah, and he'll be easy to spot, too. 7'2" and 270 isn't too common in these parts.
Right.
No, it's an exciting group, and I think of a guy like Josiah Jervis who may be there. In some sense, I'm not sure what the U18 team schedule is.
Yeah.
Same thing with Ethan Taylor.
Yeah.
They got some other commitments, but they should be folks to watch. I mentioned Carlos Medlock Jr.
Yeah.
Julius Event too is probably a longer term piece, but he could surprise. That's what we kind of expected out of Cam Ward, and then he turned out to be the prototypical Tom Izzo big. So there's another guy that I think can get people to pack the gym. He showed some Coen Carr-ism to his game last year in spurts. Obviously not sustained, and I don't think he has nearly as high of a vertical. Certainly not as explosive, but he's got a pretty good dunk package, and he's an exciting player to watch. But and if and when Jeremy pulls up too, depending on the game schedule, I think a lot of people want to see him too, and probably thank him for coming back. So I think that'll be a big deal. But it's a good group of guys, and sort of whereas last year was very matchup based, it felt like, and Michigan State could fit around what every opponent was doing. This one feels like it has more of a direction to impact the game itself. I think of a shooting guard like Jervis. He's going to be able to fire at will. Fears obviously wants to be in that conversation as well. The bigs down low have enough size to sort of impose their own will. Defensively, we'll see how they grow. The tape hasn't been, they're not defensive specialists, I would say, but considering how much Tom values that, I think they're going to have a lot of work on that, where they're probably going to come a long way. If anyone can work on defense, it's going to be Tom. So those are some things that I'd be watching, for those guys to sort of come together as a group. That this is a group that, at least on paper, at least what we've seen, who knows how they're going to look when they're all in unison in the court. But this is a group that is built to be able to impose its own will, not just be reactionary.
Connor, when you think about the new talent coming in, and of course you mentioned the recruits, you went through the list there, and we can't forget about Caleb Glenn, who we never really got to see last year, but a lot of people who are around the program said that in their workouts, they thought he might have been their second best player. Certainly, if not, he would have been their third best player behind Jeremy, and maybe at a par with Jackson Kohler. So that's another name to remember. It's interesting because Seth Davis picked Michigan State #1 on his way too early list for next year. I've seen now after the Fears decision, some people have him 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I saw one that had him 19th. But for the most part, I think people think Michigan State's going to be in the hunt, and then it comes down to injuries and some other factors. It's funny. I just heard Conan O'Brien's speech to the graduates at Harvard. And,
at Harvard, yeah.
Yeah, and of course he is a Harvard alum. And he started telling them that, don't rely on your Harvard degree. Hope that people think that that's the least important thing they know about you, and then how important luck is. And you find every year, Connor, there are some teams who go in thinking that they have a guaranteed path to the Final Four. They spend a lot of time watching television in March.
Yeah, and it's a fickle tournament, and with expansion, it's going to be interesting, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of teams are going to be playing some more games than they normally would, and it's matchup based too. I mean, there's a chance that they could lose and not make that Final Four. Look at 2016; that was a team that had all the goods, and
right.
I don't think anyone expected that to go that way. I certainly didn't when I was a young buck, but. There's always that chance, right? And that's why I hedge everything by saying it's May.
Right.
It's June.
That's right.
Things look great now. When everyone gets in the court is when it matters. And, that's why I say when we see all five guys in the court at the same time, we see the substitution pattern. We see how much guys grow, right? Right now it's all potential. Right. It's not product. And when that sort of switch happens, and there's production on the court, that's when you know who's legit and who's not. And that's why the start of the season is so fun, especially, early season tournaments. And obviously Michigan State is going to have Arkansas at LCA, which I think is going to be a great game. They brought back Billy Richmond. Obviously it's John Calipari, and he's going to have some great guards. But I really like how the schedule is shaken up. Gonzaga is going to be on there. Duke, obviously, in the Champions Classic in Chicago. That should be a great game. I'm missing someone here. Tennessee on the road.
Yeah.
First time in Tom Izzo's career, he's going down to Tennessee.
Yeah.
They were just at Breslin for that charity game for Hawaii a couple years ago. But, there's some heavy hitters in the schedule, in addition to a great Big Ten that's probably as deep as it's been in years with the expansion to the 4 Pac-12 teams. But,
right.
I'll always call them the Pac-12 teams because that's what I grew up watching them as. But,
right.
And it's a great distinction for them. But, it should be a good year of basketball.
Yeah.
And, and when you think of Tom, and I wrote this about Fears coming back, right? And Tom's legacy as a coach. He's been to more Final Fours than anybody. Yeah. One of the all-time winningest coaches. But that second title, it's on the table, it's within reach when he has this group together.
Right.
And if you don't think he's not thinking about that, when he looks at this group, this is a chance, this is a shot. And you don't know, at his age when the next one will be, and sort of where his career is at. And I know he's probably going to have to be, taken off the court before he retires. I mean, he's a basketball lifer. I don't know what he would do with himself if he wasn't on the court.
Right.
But when you think about the group and how hard it is to get an assemblage of players together, this is a great, great chance for him to get number 2.
And I am so happy for him this summer that he was able to celebrate his mom's 100th birthday in Appleton.
Yeah.
And to be there for her a couple of times when, you never know at that age. And as it turned out, her passing more than 10 days ago. But
it's really sad.
We talk about the teams coming into the bloated Big Ten, and we're calling them the Pac-12 portal editions.
Yeah.
Those 4 teams coming in. But, hey, if the Big Ten can win more than a dozen national titles, including men's and women's basketball and football, didn't quite get it done in hockey. They had half the Frozen Four, but to do that, everything is on the table. And I had a chance yesterday, Connor, to talk to Pat Fitzgerald for about 15 minutes over at the Sherman Lewis Celebration of Life at the stadium at the Ben and Barb Maybach Welcome Center at the North End. And if there's any coach in the country more fired up than him, I want to meet him.
Yeah. Well, because everyone's doubting him. I mean, if you look at every power ranking and, every off-season grade, it's like they didn't make a change, it feels like, the way they're grading Michigan State.
Yeah.
I'd be fired up, too. I know his quarterback is.
Yeah.
Caught up with him Wednesday at the Grand Prix. He was in a media event. He was folding. We throw the football, bowling pins.
Yeah.
He was on a team with Braylon Edwards of U of M fans. So we said, ask him about 04, and
Yeah.
Educate yourself because it's a big game.
Yeah.
And, there are a bunch of Spartan greats there as well that he got to meet, that, going back some generations. But, no, to get back to the point here, Pat has the chance to shock some people.
Yeah.
I think this roster is still lacking in some spots.
Right.
I still haven't seen a receiver that's going to go up for a jump ball. The offensive line is going to have to come together, and the defensive line is going to have to prove that, what it did in spring ball wasn't just because of the offensive line struggling.
Yeah.
LSU is going to have to throw more than checkdowns.
Right.
There's a lot of things that we're going to have to see throughout fall camp. But I do think a 3.5 win grade is interesting.
Yeah.
At their worst, I think they're probably 3-9. They're going to beat Toledo. They're going to beat Eastern. I would think it would be shocking if they didn't.
Yeah.
And there's probably, at least a win in Big Ten play, probably 2. But look, we talked about this about a month ago.
Yeah.
That a bowl game is probably the cherry on top, right?
Yeah.
That's where you want to be. I think that's 100% on the table. It's not a team that's going to go 10-2. It's not a team that's going to go 9-3. Probably not 8-4. But I think 6-6 is firmly on the table. There's a lot of games that are going to be toss-ups if Michigan State can put the pieces together from sort of a transformational transition off season. Second coaching change in 3 years. There's a lot of things to be ironed out and put together, but they've got it. It's Big Ten football, right? They've got a shot. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform on the field and how they come out of fall camp. But I wouldn't put them down as the Big Ten's title contender, but certainly a bowl hopeful.
Ranked 17th out of 18 teams again. Last week by CBS Sports, and Alessio Milivojevic ranked 17th among Big Ten quarterbacks. Interestingly, he's going to play against 3 quarterbacks who had been starters at Michigan State this year. I mean, you could make that up. But it's going to be very interesting, and I think there's some excitement, more than there has been the past few years when people are not excited at all about football. Now there's a curiosity, and I think fans always want to know that players care as much as they did, and coaches do.
Oh, yeah.
And I think they certainly get that vibe now. So it won't be long, and we will be seeing you in Chicago and then getting ready for the 2026 season against Toledo.
Yep, I'll be there.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, Connor. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on.
Connor Eargood of the Detroit News. And if you haven't been reading his stuff, I think you'll really enjoy it. This might be a good football season to start doing that. We'll be right back. And we're going to talk with Paul Shaheen. He is our Chicago bureau chief. We're going to talk about the White Sox getting ready to host the Tigers tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, and Chicago actually expected to win that series. If you look at Las Vegas, I don't remember the last time that we saw that. But we're going to talk with Paul about the White Sox, about things in the city of Chicago, about the Stanley Cup playoffs, certainly, and some other things around the Big Ten. We'll be right back on The Drive with Jack.
Who knew? Fresh air is a destination. Breathe in the glacial carved canvas of northern Michigan's finest golf courses and have your breath taken away by scenic vistas from tee to green. The perfect place to perfect your game in more ways than one. The waves, woods, and wonder of Bel Air. Escape every day. Discover the magic of 90 holes at one resort. Shanty Creek Resort in Bel Air and online at shantycreek.com.
Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our team of school bus drivers and attendants. Visit deanjobs.com to see all openings. Dean Transportation provides paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license, increased starting pay, comprehensive benefits, and flexible schedules with no weekend shifts. No experience needed. Apply today at deanjobs.com and train for back to school season. That's DEAN jobs.com.
Jeremy, it's finally patio season.
About time. And not just any patio, Amy. One North Patios.
We're talking sunshine, cold drinks, and that perfect I should have left work early vibe.
Lansing, East Lansing, Jackson, each one has got its own patio personality.
Whether it's brunch in the sun, happy hour with friends, or late night cocktail under the lights.
It just hits different outside.
Great food, craft drinks, and plenty of space to kick back.
So grab your crew and claim your spot.
One North Kitchen and Bar, your table's waiting. Outside.
Let's go.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Meadowar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Jack Ebling here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Spring is here, and so is good news for lease customers.
You got that right, Jack. Pretty exciting news, both at Nissan and Chevy. We have a lease pull ahead starting right now. So if you're bored with your lease, too many miles, close to too many miles, you just want to get out because of a high payment, bring it in. We'll get you out of your lease and get you into something more exciting.
Stop and see Matt and the gang at Graph of Okemos. They're making friends.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer today, Alex Seward. Alex, outstanding work on the rejoin. One of the things about Boston Rob is he tries to thematically rejoin the show, and this is a great job. I actually saw Chicago several times. The first time when it was Chicago Transit Authority, and came to the Michigan State campus for an outdoor concert that turned into a mini Woodstock in 1970. And let's just say there were a lot of babies conceived that weekend out at Old College Field, as it was then. Want to go out to our phone line and welcome in Paul Shaheen, our Chicago bureau chief. He's a guy I think is Neil Kepke's favorite protege or disciple, part of our hockey panel, and a great guest, going to be making his debut on Press Pass this Sunday night with Trent Bally. And when I mentioned this, Paul, a lot of females perked up, so I think our viewership is going to have a little different demographic this week.
Well, a lot of women were screaming for Paul McCartney on Stephen Colbert's last show. I'll do my best to match that, Jack, but I'll manage expectations. I just don't think, I don't know if I'm going to be able to rise to that level of fandom, but I will do my utmost to do my best. And, Jack, I love that you mentioned Chicago Transit Authority. I do remember that, too. Of course, I was growing up in Detroit at the time.
Yeah.
Jack, you and I are so old, our blood type's been discontinued. Well, but that's another matter. But we do remember those sorts of that's an old Phyllis Diller joke. But, yes, I do remember that and those great albums from those great days. And, yes, thank you for playing a little Chicago as the listeners welcome in. Little old humble me from Chicago. Thank you for that.
You mentioned the end of Stephen Colbert's show. I think we're going to have to add to your introduction BAP, Best Available Paul, since McCartney was not here able to join us today. But I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in baseball in Chicago. It looked like the Cubs were going to be with the Dodgers and maybe the Brewers, the best teams in the National League, and they fall on this incredible drought here. And the White Sox coming out of nowhere. I don't think I saw anyone who didn't pick them to finish last in the Central Division. They are now second behind only Cleveland. and they are favored to win at least 2 games this weekend against the Tigers. Is there actually excitement for White Sox baseball now?
There is. Who had the White Sox over the Tigers on your bingo card to
No
enter
one.
the 2026 season?
No one.
Did we think the Sox would be better? They certainly have been. Now, this is interesting for me, Jack. Grew up a Detroiter Tiger fan, still root for the Tigers, but I came to Chicago and I went to a lot of Cubs games.
Yeah.
I was there for the drop ball in the Bartman. I was there at the Bartman game.
Yeah.
I was there for that, and then I decided to come back the next night. I figured if the ship's going to sink, I'm going to go right down with it, and sure enough, it did. Of course, the Cubs went ahead and won a World Series later in 2016. But honestly, Jack, no partisanship intended here. The Sox in the moment are a bigger story than the Cubs. Again, the Cubs rule the roost. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the White Sox ratings are better than the Cubs, but the Cubs, even at 31-26 and only 4 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers, I mean, certainly sitting in a relatively, not technically in the playoffs in the moment, but I mean, people would expect the Cubs to be competitive, but they've lost 2 of 8, and they got pounded a couple times this week, even though they won their last 2.
Right.
But it's a great story for the Sox. 29-27. They haven't been over 500 at this early stage in the season for quite some time. Just a lot of great youth. And I think a lot of it, I mean, you can talk about Murakami and his 20 home runs.
Yeah.
Guys like a Colson Montgomery and Madroth and folks like this. And this Davis Martin, 8-1, 2.00 ERA. But really a lot of it, I would say, not a guy that sits there and studies the Sox minute by minute, day by day by any means. But you got to give credit to this second-year manager, Will Venable, who looks even younger than the 43 years that he is. Here's a guy who's just come in. He was a bench, not the bench boss, but he was a base coach for the Cubs a few years ago. Went to the Rangers, head coach for a short spell with the Red Sox.
Right.
And he's just got. It's just one of those right guy at the right time kind of things. I mean, Will Venable was a Princeton grad, by the way. He got recruited to play basketball there, but then he converted to baseball.
Didn't know that.
And then he took off from there. Yeah.
Huh.
So he's just been a great guy. He's been a good manager. He's got this team believing in itself, and Getz, the general manager, has brought in some good. And of course, the White Sox have been a laughingstock in this town for quite some time. And but it's good to see the turnaround for them. It really is.
Would you guess, Paul, that the division of fan loyalty in the Windy City is 65-35, 75-25? How much of an advantage there do the Cubs have over the White Sox?
You go back historically, Jack. Again, the Sox have had. Hey, listen, Sox won it in 2005. They've certainly had their strong years. The Cubs, for all of the love affair that this town has, I mean, the Cubs won what? How many years? How many presidential administrations has it been since they finally won that World Series against Neil Kepke's Cleveland Indians, now Guardians, back in 2016?
Right.
But the Cubs still rule. I think a lot of that goes back to, remember back in the day, of course, the television world has changed so much, Jack, as you well know. But back then it was WGN, the Superstation, and they were sort of, for a stretch, they were kind of America's team.
Yeah,
and
lovable losers, right?
Lovable losers, and when you had nothing better to do during the day, you'd watch the Cubs play day baseball, whether they win or lose. So, and Harry Carey and the whole thing, and that's just kind of carried on, and of course they've done beautiful things at Wrigley Field in Wrigleyville. They've made it a complete campus, hotels, restaurants, bars, you name it. It's such a great, and of course the Sox are trying to create that same sort of buzz too with a proposed new stadium. We'll see where that goes. They got to figure out the Bears long before they figure that out. What a mess that is. That's another Harvard dissertation for another day. But the Cubs are still in command, I would say, from a global perspective. But I would say this: the Sox fans, over the years, the last few years, not good in attendance, but not great. But I'd say there's a lot of Sox fans out there, and they're liking this team, and well, they should.
Munetaka Murakami now with 20 home runs, the most by any rookie before the end of May. Still got a couple of days left. Got a series left here before that, and he won't get to face Jack Flaherty, so we can't automatically give him more home runs.
Right.
But in terms of the response to him, being a Japanese player, you wonder. There's obviously a curiosity, but there's also a communication issue there. And is it anything like when Sammy Sosa, who had been a White Sox, then became a Cubs slugger and became such a big story with Mark McGwire? If Murakami sets the Major League Baseball rookie record for home runs, is he the rookie of the year? Because there's some people right here who will fight for Kevin McGonigal.
Oh, it's a tough one. Think about that. Now, how does that roll off the tongue? Munetaka Murakami mania here in Chicago. Well, he's what do you want to call it? It's the tale of two cities, right? It's either the ball's either long gone or he strikes out, right?
That's right.
79 strikeouts, but he's got the 20 home runs, 2 points of here I go with goals against average. No, .242 batting average. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But no, he's been a great story, and it's been him, but it's been more than him. I mentioned some of the other names, but he's certainly creating a lot of buzz. I mean, he's young, but he's not like not 18, 20 years old. He's 26 years of age, so he certainly has his experience overseas.
Yeah.
But he's certainly getting a lot of buzz. And you know what? For many years, people thought Jerry Reinsdorf, he's not spending the money for this or what have you. And he brings in, he brings in some of his people, and sometimes that works out, and sometimes it doesn't. But right now, it's a good groove right now. But now the challenge is, okay, now they've got that buzz. And as we all know in sports, it's a lot easier to go from nothing to something, but now you got to go from something to something, really something, and be a true contender. And that's what this team will from a Sox fan standpoint, will hopefully do. And I'm sure there'll be growing pains as they go. But it's certainly a feel-good story in the moment, no question.
All right, the White Sox are the news of the day, but if I don't start asking you hockey questions, Cooney and Koepke and Jones and Klein and Beligian and Haley Schoengard are going to be really mad at me.
They're going to be upset.
They certainly are. So let's talk about what we have now, getting ready for the Stanley Cup Finals. First of all, I know you made a big bet on the Vegas Golden Knights to sweep the Colorado Avalanche, right?
Absolutely. I bet it all on black. No, I didn't.
Did anyone see that coming? Talk about bingo cards.
No, they didn't. But you know what? When you're Vegas, and you can love them, and you can hate them.
Yeah.
But I tell you, you talk about, what do they say in the corporate world, Jack? Good corporations, they always want to control the narrative, but they want to make sure the narrative is strong.
Yeah.
If there's one team in the NHL that doesn't give a hoot what the narrative is, it's Vegas. They just do whatever they do to win, right or wrong.
Yeah.
We fired your coach? Nope, you can't talk to somebody else. Bruce Cassidy's sitting there twisting in the wind. They make bold moves. They go out and they get Mitch Marner last year to the chagrin of continued chagrin of Maple Leaf fans.
Right.
And I know this is a sensitive one, especially for Michigan State folk, but they took a chance on Carter Hart, the former goalie for Philadelphia, who was in the news for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
In the Hockey Canada trial, he was acquitted in a court of law, and many teams probably didn't want to touch that. Well, the Sin City folk decided to do that. Not that he committed anything, that he was acquitted in a court of law, but they took a chance on him when a lot of teams wouldn't. And look what he's done. He's taken that team. They've got the best goals against average in the NHL playoffs, thanks to him. Now, certainly, anytime you have good goaltending, you make a coach look good. But then you bring in the Tortorella factor. There is no coach who's that good but has that short a shelf life than John Tortorella.
Right.
And he's the guy. I mean, maybe that's what John Tortorella should do. He should be a turnaround specialist like they do, like you see on Wall Street. Just come in every last 10 games, and I guarantee you. But he's just doing incredible things. And again, 10 games to go in the season, they bring him in. And what an incredible turnaround. They might have made the playoffs anyway, but they're just playing so much better. They're getting great activation from their defense. They're getting contributions from all facets. I mean, obviously the Marners and the Eichels are doing well, but guys like Scott Sissons, who is he? He just, fourth liner, just wins good draws and plays good minutes. All those things are going so well for Vegas. Did we expect a sweep? No, but boy, when you got Cale Makar, who probably has a much, much worse injury than any of us probably think, and then McKinnon and Nikushkin, I believe, was also out and hurt. It just didn't work out for them, and Vegas is on their way. And I tell you, I got to believe Carolina would certainly love to close it out with Montreal right now, because they don't want to go 7 games and be tired going in against this Vegas team. That's going to be a heck of a series. I think right now, just transitioning quickly. Montreal, great story, great romantic story, but the path is going to be very hard for them to win 3 in a row against Rod Brindamore's Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, and when you think of the way Carolina is dominating this series, and Montreal isn't getting 15 shots a game, Carolina is controlling everything, and they give up a goal, but it doesn't seem to matter. So I think in this, it's going to be another possible big surprise. I can't imagine any team having 2 bigger series surprises back-to-back than the Golden Knights would if they beat Colorado and Carolina. But Boston Rob was been telling us since New Year's Day that Carolina was going to win the Stanley Cup, and I'm kind of rooting for Vegas because I don't want Rob to look that smart.
Oh, come on. You got to root for the former Spartan, but no, he's got a terrific team. Rod Brindamore does. He's pushing all the right buttons. He's got a great team. He's got a bit of a oddball owner there, as we well know, but he's given him the tools to put everything together. And I tell you, when you watch the way Carolina, after that kind of a brain cramp of a game 1 where Carolina lost to Montreal and Montreal beat them going away 6-2, even though the scores have been relatively close, it's been all Carolina from a territorial standpoint. And I'm telling you, when it comes to Montreal, Rod Brindamore and the Carolina Hurricanes, I think they control the play more than FIFA controls World Cup ticket prices. That's pretty controlling. You know what I mean, Jack? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So it's really something. And good on Rod Brindamore, too. What a story. He won the Stanley Cup as a player with the Carolina Hurricanes back in 2006. And he was a first-round pick of St. Louis in 1988, just behind Mike Modano, Trevor Linden, Marty Jelena. And guess what? How about this? Right before Brindamore was picked, Jeremy Roenick for the Hawks. And right after Rod Brindamore, Winnipeg took Teemu Selanne. So that's some pretty big company there, both as a player and now Rod Brindamore is showing everything he can do as a head coach, and he's been just absolutely brilliant about it.
Among the other areas of interest and expertise for Paul Shaheen, he mentioned soccer and the World Cup. We're not going to spend much time on the World Cup or Arsenal or those kinds of things today, maybe down the road. But I did want to give you a chance to mention Michigan State's situation, because you are not a Spartan at birth, but you certainly know an awful lot about this place.
I was adopted.
There you go. That's right. I love adoption. I especially love it with you and Michigan State sports and hockey in particular. But what we have seen again this week with Michigan State self-destructing, as Nick Saban always says, it's easier to beat Michigan than it is to beat Michigan State if you are a Spartan. And we've seen it now with yet another president leaving. We're going to get number 8 here before long in the last 8 years. And you happen to know one of the Michigan State trustees whose name has been in the news a lot. You've been part of these threads going back and forth, and we spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Michigan State's situation and the piles that keep stepping in. From someone living in Chicago who didn't actually go to classes here. What's your take on all this?
It is really something. What was it now? What is it going to be? 7 presidents in the last 8 years. It's been quite, going all the way back to the whole misfortunes going back to 2018.
Yeah.
I tell you, do college presidents have a transfer portal of their own, Jack?
I think so.
Like they just kind of come and go.
I think so.
It's quite amazing. Yeah, I do know one of the trustees, the one who's been in the news, and I'm not completely close enough to it, but I certainly read a lot of it. I guess all I'll mention is this. I don't know the former president all that well. I mean, I've never met the man, but was the situation with the trustees, is that the reason he left, or was it just because he had a chance to go to Clemson? I know the trustees voted in a big doubling of the salary. Yeah. Jack Ebling kind of money. They voted in. You see, you like that, Jack?
Wow.
But they had some good dollars coming in. I know a lot of people there who said they worked with him to build a lot of infrastructure and bring in a lot of people. And now 3 years later, boom. I mean, maybe it's just a point now where you can't count on college presidents to be there any longer than NHL head coaches, Jack. I guess that's what it is. My only comment I would make is this. I don't want to go too deep in the politics, but there are people out there who have now pounded on the trustees. I'm not quite sure why the former President Gukowitz seems to be getting a free pass on this. Mm-hmm. And the other thing I will mention is this notion of we need to go to governor-appointed trustees as opposed to elected trustees. Maybe that is a better path, but you can't guarantee me that if the issue is partisanship, you can't tell me that a governor-appointed trustee system would be any less. Maybe it would be, but you can't guarantee me that would eradicate that. Again, my daughter graduated from Wisconsin not too long ago. When I was there, I was just kind of just nothing, waiting for the ceremony to start. And I started flipping around the internet, and I see that Minnesota and Wisconsin, most of their all their trustees are appointed, not voted in.
Most of them are. Yeah.
Can't say as if that's been an issue or not, but that's the only thing I would say is that it seems like there's a lot of heap and blame going on. And that, to me, is unfortunate. And let's just hope that Michigan State can find a good hire and someone that really will stick it out for a while and help really grow the university, not only from an athletic department standpoint, but obviously most importantly from an academic and welcoming standpoint.
Well, there is enough blame here, believe it or not, to go around, and depending on how you want to apportion it. But I thought that Kevin Guskowitz would fight for what he believed, and he basically won. He had a 5-3 vote, and he was offered $1 million pay increase, decided to leave for, I would say, a lesser institution for $800,000 less money. I don't know that many people willingly take an $800,000 pay cut to go someplace of lower prestige, but that's what he chose to do, and I think he could have won. As I said yesterday, Paul, all he had to do, if he didn't want this $1 million, was say, I'm going to decline this $1 million salary increase because I agreed to come and help Michigan State for this amount of money. We can talk about salary increases when we reach all of our stated goals. This university right now is having tuition increases. It is having cuts across the board. It would be criminal for me to accept that kind of money when it needs to go to the institution. He would have had every faculty member and every student giving him a standing ovation, and I think those trustees who were giving him some trouble and wanting transparency would have had to shrink away with their tail between their legs. He would have won the fight instead of him leaving to go fight somewhere else.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, you vote to I mean, whatever differences or different opinions that some of these trustees may have had with him, the fact that they wanted to vote this person an extra $1 million, yes, part of it is performance, but part of it is not only performance, but we want to make sure we don't lose him to somebody else. It's kind of proactive, but also reactive too. I totally agree with that. But again, what I've read, I'm not this whole loyalty clause is as elected official. I get it, disagree but commit, the old saying. Is it wrong for someone to speak out and say, I have a problem with a Spartan Ventures or this new Spartan Media model that I've been hearing about? I don't know. I think I'm with you, Jack. I'm not going to sit here and say that any one person is to blame for this. It just seemed like there was a lot of heap and help and a criticism going one direction. And I give credit to the one trustee in question who I apparently reached out, I guess, to several media outlets, Detroit News particularly, to defend his turf. And I give him credit for standing up there and say, hey, listen, it's not me. I mean, because to blame it all on one person. I mean, look, there's no way the ex-president turned around in 24 hours and applied for a job in Clemson and got hired. That had to have been in the incubation process for some time, I would imagine.
And I think that had a lot to do with the raise that was rushed through here with an emergency meeting on a Sunday night at 8:00 and all of that. Paul, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Always appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you Sunday night.
Can't wait, Jack. Thanks for having me on.
Paul Shaheen. Now, we're going to stay right here, Alex, and welcome in Deshaun Tate. He is our Lansing-bred, Atlanta-based basketball savant. It's Tate's Take Hoops, where basketball lives. Deshaun, apparently your conversation with Jeremy Fears worked.
Yeah, it did. First, let me say this. What an intelligent guest, Mr. Shaheen, that you just had on. I took away two things from the conversation that you just had. The first thing being he mentioned something about Jack Ebling kind of money, and I got really excited. And then I heard him mention something along the lines of having a daughter that just graduated from just had a daughter that graduated from college. Congratulations.
Yes, Wisconsin.
And then I got a little bit discouraged. I got about 19 years before I can even start thinking about that. So,
take you 19 years to save up for the tuition.
I know, right? And thanks so much for having me. And it was good to hear from Alex at the beginning of the call for the first time in a long time as well. But yeah, listen, the Jeremy Fears thing. I'm so excited. I had a feeling that that's just ultimately what it was going to come down to. What took the long wait, I don't know, but. Listen, I mean, what an incredible talent he is, and guys that make decisions such as these come back to be Player of the Year, whether that be for conference or for national. Guys that like this that make decisions like these come back to win national championships, and I think that puts them very much in the realm of that conversation of accomplishing such things.
Deshaun, like so many things, there's a problem, and it's not addressed, and there's neglect. And then there's a groundswell, and there's a reaction to it, and sometimes an overreaction. It's like a pendulum. It never stops at the bottom. It swings one way, and then it swings back the other way. So players for many years were not compensated. They were doing the work, the heavy lifting. They were the ones being injured. And, they were getting an education, but in many cases they weren't able to be regular students. They had so many demands on them to figure out what they actually would have made per hour. And so, were they compensated? Should they have been shareholders? And with all of this money that was coming in, I think most people, fair-minded people, would say yes. I don't think many people thought that we would see players who you don't know their names, even you, and they're making $2 million. Guys in the portal who you can't get that excited about are making $3 million. This thing's going up to $5 million for All-America players. And that is more than anyone on campus, except for the head football coach, in many cases the head basketball coach. This is from 3 to 5 times more than most university presidents, most cancer researchers who are coming up with cures to save lives. Is there a ceiling to this? Is there any kind of a mark here we're going to get to, and then the ball's going to swing back the other way?
I think it's a possibility. I mean, it's hard to really rule out anything with the way that all of this is going, especially talking about collegiate athletics and everything else, and the money that's just being thrown around. I mean, the thing that I don't necessarily love about NIL and some of these things, and there's a lot of positives to it, quite a few. Sometimes I'm concerned about the kind of money that some of the collegiate athletes get paid, and then it just appears almost as if there's a feel that some guys just aren't working as hard to, whether it be, to get to the next level or to even remain consistent and persistent with their own individual level on a college level. And so, I hope some of that passion doesn't die off, especially for, players of Michigan State, but players of any school, because we do look forward to seeing the best of the best competition and the commitment that's made from them. So, unfortunately, I'm afraid to say that I have a good feeling that it's just going to get worse before it gets better, but obviously for the players, better for their pockets.
Deshaun, you think about air travel, and you're involved in that industry. Sure. Jay Green, the guy is, I think, standing at the door right now, looking in, trying to get in to our studio. But you know a little bit about this from your work with Delta Airlines. And when the Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville in Ohio, came up with this first idea for a plane, it wasn't what you work with at Delta. And I think when people came up with the idea of name, image, and likeness compensation, and when it went to court with the O'Bannon brothers, it was to redress the problems with uniforms being sold with players' names, with their images, and everyone was benefiting except the players themselves. What we have now is not name, image, and likeness. It has nothing to do with that. It isn't compensation for that. It is pay to play. And a lot of us saw that coming. I remember a discussion with Tom Izzo about this. And I think going back, he correctly identified that everyone was going to try to find a way to cut corners. And yes, the players should have a stake in this. But I don't think anyone realized exactly where it was going to get and how fast it was going to get there. And I've been told, Deshaun, that within 3 years, we're going to have a $10 million college basketball player, $10 million per year.
Would it surprise me the least bit, especially considering the fact that, and I don't know the exact amount, but I'm sure A.J. DeBansta, who's presumably going to be the number one pick in June's NBA draft, got somewhere north of $5 million already.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much of that included or excluded endorsements from, Red Bull and some others. But, so it's definitely, not, I mean, you're talking about maybe, within the next, X amount of years, 3 years or so.
Yeah.
Hell, maybe within the next 364 days.
Yeah.
365, 366 if it's a leap year. So, and so much as I mean, I feel like when all of this first started, is kind of when, I don't remember which one it was, Ed O'Bannon, Charles O'Bannon, whatever, about the NIL and all that stuff.
Right.
But it kind of seems almost as if it started out about name, image, and likeness when it came to jersey sales and video games. I haven't heard anything about, I don't even know anybody wearing jerseys anymore, let alone jersey sales and video games. Now it's just about strictly pay to play. And I know a lot of fingers and signs tend to kind of point to, for whatever reason, John Calipari and some of the others that kind of seem sometimes now like he's kind of backpedaled a little bit on how it's being done. But again, I mean, that's just the world that we're living in. And,
toothpaste is out of the tube now. It's hard to imagine it going back. And I was told that you live in a household where Duke is discussed on a regular basis. And Cooper Flagg, before he played a game, before he signed his contract with the Dallas Mavericks, had made more than $25 million. $25 million. Now, much of that was not directly from Duke boosters. This had to do with his shoe deal, New Balance, everything that went with that, and all of the endorsements that, commercially he was viable, and hey, someone was willing to pay it. But it is such a different world. I have to ask you about the NBA playoffs because I have a problem with this, Deshaun. And normally I watch the NBA playoffs religiously and the Stanley Cup playoffs. You can't pry me away from the set at this time of year. I am so disappointed with what I have seen this year. Not with the Stanley Cup playoffs. And even when you have series that aren't close, you have games that are exciting. They're decided by one goal, one save, one bounce of the puck. These NBA games are not competitive. Fred Heumann always says, you don't need to watch the NBA till the fourth quarter. You just watch the last 2 minutes. That's all you need to do. These games are over in the first quarter or second quarter. And they don't come down to the fourth quarter. And we have only had one game in the conference championships. Didn't have any with the Knicks and the Cavs that were really competitive. And only the first game when Wemby had the 41 points and 24 rebounds and went into double overtime. Now, that was a phenomenal game. But the rest of them, one team has exerted its will and hasn't been very good television.
Yeah, as we're preparing for a Game 7 that I hope is just half as good as Game 1 was, which seems like it was just a thriller. And seems like it was preparing us for a series in the making of one of the greatest that we've ever seen, and it hasn't quite lived up to the hype of that. And I think
Shea is great or Wemby is great, one or the other. They take turns. The teams keep winning by double digits.
That's true, and that's a good point. I think, and not a fix by any means, but if for rating purposes and everything else that everybody's always raving about that the NBA doesn't have. Just the thought of Victor Wembanyama in Madison Square Garden is just its own thought within itself. But, there's narratives that are put around all of these different things. And obviously one of them is being around, if it's not about Shai Alexander, if it's not about Shai getting to the free throw line only 3 times and maybe not having the game of his life in Game 6 or, Victor Wembanyama only having 6 rebounds, shooting 26%. I mean, there's so many different narratives and layers to the onion and, just try to appreciate the game for what it is. I mean, these have been the 2 teams all year long.
Right. They've been the 2 best teams.
They've been the 2 best teams. Yeah. And looking forward to seeing those teams after, people anticipated that OKC would wipe the floor with them, and during the regular season, the San Antonio Spurs have, been exceptional against them. So
what happens tomorrow? What do we see in Game 7?
I'm going to go with OKC. I think to some degree there is some truth or merit to a team as special as they may be or a player as special as they may be having to go through some bumps in the road and some things first, kind of like Jordan had to do with the Pistons or LeBron with Boston or whatever narrative you want to put out there. That could very much be this, and I don't love their chances on the road. I like their chances a lot. It could go either way, absolutely. I think we're really close to being able to say that. I am going to go with OKC in Game 7 to advance on against the Knicks.
We see in the NBA, Deshaun, it's a stepladder. And after LeBron was in the finals, the 8 straight years with Miami and Cleveland, since then, you have had 8 different teams. You haven't had back-to-back representation from the East in the conference finals. And interestingly, the team that loses the conference final every time has gone on to win the conference the following year. The Knicks would be the 8th in a row to do this. They lost last year in the conference final to Indiana. But I have a hard time believing that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to be in the NBA Finals next year, and that's what this trend would tell us.
It is. I can see it happening if they do the one thing that I've been saying for so long, and I know that I sound like a broken record now at this point, but that is LeBron James becoming a Cleveland Cavalier, and even then, there's no guarantee. I always have an example to set about not the way somebody, not what somebody did, but the way somebody did something, and that is the exact example of what the Cleveland Cavaliers did not do against the New York Knicks, and the way that they have not only manhandled them, but the way that they did it against Philly. And after, Atlanta won their 2 games, it's like New York has just been sitting and waiting. One excuse they won't have if they don't win is that they didn't have enough time to prepare. The downside of that, I guess, to a degree, is they don't know who to prepare for. And I was even curious about this. How do you even prepare? How do you do this? What are they doing? I'm sure they're not doing full-on practices, but they are doing walkthroughs, regardless who to prepare for, just doing some shoot-arounds and some other things. But I still think no matter who it is that they play, it's going to be a really good series, and I think it'll be a really good storyline no matter what. I mean, listen, if you thought that New Yorkers, Jack, were just belligerent and just obnoxious and everything else,
and I
think that's about to lift the state. I'm sure you do. That's going to lift the state. You're not by yourself, by the way. I think that's just going to lift just the hype of everything around this year's NBA Finals. I really do, and they have a reason to kind of talk the way that they're talking. The way that they have won their basketball games, they're going to be a really hard team to beat, especially if Karl Anthony Towns decides to play like Karl Anthony Towns in the first half of these games.
They are the hottest team, no question.
Yes,
but I would be rooting against the Knicks, even though I like some of their players. But I'd be rooting against them simply because if they win, I can't imagine Stephen A. Smith for the next decade.
And how proud, me neither. That's one channel I won't dare turn to. I've got a yeller and a screamer at 3 years old, my own self. I have plenty enough for that. But how about, Jack, just the overwhelming, the prices. Finals tickets and floor seats. I don't even know what that number looks like at Madison Square Garden. Me and you we were just there a few months back. Not a bad seat in the house, and just the tradition that comes around, that surrounds New York and the fan base and everything else. How must Jay Wright be feeling right now? They're the Villanova Knicks at this point.
Yeah.
With 3 players, former Villanova guys, won national championships and everything else there at the school, and he must be really proud of his guy.
Deshaun, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. You want to give us a score prediction for tomorrow?
I'm so terrible at this, Jack. I figure this is going to be low scoring, so I am going to go with crazy to think that this is low scoring. I am going to go 107.
Okay.
I'm going to go 107-111. Oklahoma City. And I want to say this last thing, and I know we're up against it. I do want to offer my sincere and genuine condolences to Coach Izzo and his family. I wanted to make sure before we got off the air that I made a mention of that. And thanks for having me, Jack.
Deshaun Tate, and a lot of people who love Tom Izzo and who have met his mom. She's one of the classiest women I ever met. And if you had a chance to see her or talk to her, obviously, she was 100 years old, okay? But if you talk to her, you would never guess that. She could go to the state fair very late in her life, Alex. And you know that deal where they guess your age and you win a teddy bear?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. They need a truck to take the teddy bears. All right. We will be right back. And sitting in studio, Mr. SD4L, Jay Green, Sweet Jay. He is here. We'll be talking with him about Michigan State and much, much more coming up on The Drive with Jack.
Dean Transportation is looking for compassionate people to join our team of school bus drivers and attendants. Visit deanjobs.com to see all openings. Dean Transportation provides paid training to obtain a commercial driver's license, increased starting pay, comprehensive benefits, and flexible schedules with no weekend shifts. No experience needed. Apply today at deanjobs.com and train for back to school season. That's DEAN jobs.com.
Jeremy, what's the move when the kids say they're bored?
Easy. Family fun night every Tuesday at 1 North.
Free kids meal with every entree, so dinner is handled.
And we're not just talking crayons and paper menus.
Nope. We've got Battleship, Uno, all the table game classics.
Plus, all the big stuff, Amy. Giant Yahtzee, Connect 4. It's basically game night leveled up.
Kids stay entertained. Parents actually get to relax. It's a win-win.
Great food, family vibes, and a little friendly competition.
Family fun night at 1 North Kitchen and Bar.
Come hungry and ready to play.
Jack Ebling here with my good friend Matt Sloan at Graph of Okemos. Spring is here, and so is good news for lease customers.
You got that right, Jack. Pretty exciting news, both at Nissan and Chevy. We have a lease pull ahead starting right now. So if you're bored with your lease, too many miles, close to too many miles, you just want to get out because of a high payment, bring it in. We'll get you out of your lease and get you into something more exciting.
Stop and see Matt and the gang at Graph of Okemos. They're making friends.
So, it's been a while since you've had your jewelry cleaned and inspected, right? Where will you go and who will you trust with your most valuable and treasured heirlooms? At Meadowar Jewelers' 4 locations in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage, jewelry isn't just our job, it's our passion. Each and every piece entrusted in our care is thoroughly inspected by our trained staff against damage or normal wear. And we offer you, our customer, the highest level of quality on repairs and custom designs. Whether it's worn out prongs, channels, or shanks, it's all handled with incredible care. Medawar Jewelers in Lansing, Okemos, Jackson, and Portage want to help you preserve your memories and offer you options on creating new ones. Come in today for the cleaning and inspection of your jewelry. We continue to work hard every day to earn your confidence and trust.
Medawar Jewelers.
Who knew? Fresh air is a destination. Breathe in the glacial carved canvas of northern Michigan's finest golf courses and have your breath taken away by scenic vistas from tee to green. The perfect place to perfect your game in more ways than one. The waves, woods, and wonder of Bel Air. Escape every day. Discover the magic of 90 holes at one resort. Shanty Creek Resort in Bel Air and online at shantycreek.com.
Welcome back. It is The Drive with Jack, Spotlight Radio Network. Jack Ebling here with my producer today, Alex Heward. Boston Rob will be back if we have him on Monday. I want to welcome in Jay Green. Jay, some of the rejoins here, we get a wide variety. My musical taste plus Rob's, kind of a dangerous hybrid there. What kind of music do you like to listen to?
Kind of music. I don't really have my music depends on my mood and what I'm doing pretty much.
Situational.
Yeah, it's not. I like country. I grew up watching Hee Haw, which is
really.
Yes.
I would not have guessed that.
Yes, I used to watch. So every Saturday after the 6 o'clock news, Hee Haw used to come on, and I
knew Country Joe. I didn't know Country Jay.
No, I'm well rounded, Jack. I'm well rounded.
All right. I want to talk to you about something that happened this week, and I'm sorry you couldn't have been a part of it. You would have been in your glory, I'll tell you. Visitation Wednesday, funeral. We were at Gorsland Runciman, and then at Graduate Hotel Wednesday night, late. Then Thursday morning, University Lutheran Church on Harrison for the funeral. Then after the burial, everyone got together at the stadium at the Ben and Barb Maybach Welcome Center, north end of the stadium, and for 3+ hours there, had Tom Izzo drop by between engagements. He's flying around, of course, after his mother's passing and other appointments he had out of town, but he made sure to come by and say a few words, pose for pictures, and just greet the former players. He loves football more than basketball, as he said many times. And then Fitz showed up, and you'd seen the players descend on him. I mean, they're guys with canes, right? Come over, and they wanted to get in the game. So they're excited about Michigan State football, even if the prognosticators and the people in Las Vegas are not. But the fact that commemorating the life and times of Sherman Lewis, and Sherman was not only a third-place Heisman finisher, that's as high as anyone at Michigan State has ever been. They never had a winner or a runner-up. Lorenzo White finished fourth twice. But Sherm also had those 5 80-yard touchdown runs and the biggest of big games. Played both ways at less than 160 pounds. And track athlete, tremendous long jumper. He had all the athletic tools you could ever ask for. And Jay, was such an interesting story we learned from his friend Tom Staley about growing up in Louisville at DuPont Manual High School, and no SEC team would take a black player. So he didn't want to go to Kentucky anyway, but he was going to go to Indiana. And he and a teammate, they were going to go as a package deal to Bloomington. And the teammate did not pass his final exams, didn't graduate. And Indiana backed off both of them and never called Sherman Lewis. So he's waiting. Finally, he says, Michigan State. Michigan State comes in, great presentation, falls in love with the place. It's where he should have been all along, right? Comes to East Lansing and really creates an incredible legacy for the number 20. Jalen Watts Jackson later took that and ran with it. But in 3 years against Indiana, then you couldn't play as a freshman. You only had your sophomore year. You didn't have this 5 for 5 or 8 for 2 or whatever it is, right? So in these 3 years, he beat the crap out of Indiana 3 times. And it was kind of funny to hear the stories about that. And then coaching at Michigan State from 1969 when Duffy hired him and Jimmy, and they changed kind of the face of Big Ten coaching. And then to go on to the National Football League when George came in, he didn't keep Sherm, but they were able to find a spot for him, and what a spot. San Francisco 49ers. John McVay, who was running the 49ers organization, was on the staff when Sherm was recruited, so he knew all about Sherman Lewis. And gets to the 49ers. They've won 1 Super Bowl. They won the first one without him, with Joe Montana. But they didn't have Jerry Rice either. Jerry Rice and Sherm Lewis came in close to the same time. I think Sherm was 1 year ahead of Jerry. And the rest is history. Talk about the hell they inflicted. With more Super Bowls with Montana, and then Steve Young came after that. But by that time, he'd moved on to be an offensive coordinator with the Green Bay Packers, with Mike Holmgren, Brett Favre then as his quarterback. How's this for pretty good luck, or maybe you had a big hand in developing Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Brett Favre? Not bad. Pretty good threesome.
No, I would agree.
And the Super Bowl that he won with Green Bay, Jay, 1996, first play, shocked everyone. They threw the bomb to Andre Rison. Touchdown.
And
Game over.
If I remember correctly, Andre ran the wrong route on that play.
That's hard to imagine.
If I remember correctly, because I remember one of those stories, and they was kind of telling the story about it, and he said that he ran the wrong route. But
Andre would tell you it's never the wrong route. Just throw him the ball. The rest is a touchdown, right? So I wish you could have been there, because it was from every decade, seeing Spartans together and to unite. And it goes back to what we have been saying. Michigan State, when it is unified, is an incredible force. And when it, as it often is, at loggerheads, it's its own worst enemy.
No, I think that not even being there, I think the thing that I'm excited about is that they got a chance to be around a new coach and see what that energy is like. And the fact that because I've tried to tell people about what it's like, but until you actually experience it, you don't really understand. So for them to get that experience, I think is the biggest thing for me, because I think that can turn into that united front, especially on as far as football goes.
There were some people there, former players and others, Jay, who really smart guys, or people who think they're smart, right? So they have very strong opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And they were asking questions and listening, and they were quiet, and they were sponges, just soaking this up. And I think if you had asked, every one of them would have signed a letter of intent by the time they left that room. So Fitz wasn't even trying to recruit them, but he recruited them.
It's just the aura that he carries with him, and the thing about it is it's all genuine. It's just who he is, but it's such a thing that draws you in. Like I tell everybody, from a 5-minute conversation, if he had asked me to play one play, I would have put forth an effort. I would have put forth that effort.
All right, I have to ask you about Jeremy Fears Jr. and the decision to come back. Only he can determine if it's the right decision, but it certainly seems like the smart decision.
No, I would agree, and I think that a lot of people felt like going into this process, it was more a thing of just getting feedback than it is him actually going. And I think that him coming back proved that, but also what we had been hearing before he made the decision to come back, kind of proved that. And I think that, he made a decision that was best for him, and I think that he's comfortable with that decision. And I think, again, you being able to benefit in college now softens that blow of not, even though you may want to go, a lot of times that money will help. That money will help soften that blow.
It's odd to think that he's going to make exponentially more money in college than the pros. Used to be the other way around. No. Guys would leave college to make money. Now they stay in college to make money.
Yeah, no, and I get it. I heard you talking about it a little bit when I came in about the NIL and the first $10 million player, and 3 years I think is a long time. By 3 years it could be
more than that,
because we had I think a $7 million freshman this past year, so it can definitely, I feel like, get past that before 3 years.
Wow. Just think if they'd had name, image, and likeness for a healthy Jay Green, Alex, before his surgery, we'd all be asking him for a loan.
No, because I would have been and gave it all away by now.
That's he would have too. And the way he is wired, Captain Generous over here. Yeah. So when you think about this Michigan State team now having arguably the best returning point guard in the country, I don't think that's a stretch, along with the most spectacular show in the country in Cone Carr, along with 2 7'1+ centers. One is 7'2", the other one might get to 7'3", we don't know. And then having this infusion of talent with a top 5 incoming class, much more depth than the Spartans had last year, when you're kind of looking at the clock sometimes. And people forget Caleb Glenn last year, before his injury, was wowing people who saw him play. So I can see a lot of excitement. We talk about Michigan State basketball and the curiosity and excitement. For basketball, a lot of people, it's championship or bust.
No, I would agree, especially coming off Michigan winning the national championship last year.
Yeah.
I think that amps it up even more, and then add to that the Final Four is in Detroit next year.
Yeah.
And you talked about the recruiting class, and we have 2 guys who just made the USA 18 and under team.
Good point.
And Josiah Jarvis is, from what I've been hearing, is a very special player. So I can't wait to see what he's
Gary
about.
Harris 2.0.
Oh, wow. Now that's saying something.
Yeah.
That is saying something.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see what happens. I think that the energy will be through the roof. I think the expectations will be through the roof. And like you said, it's championship or bust. But I feel like the great thing about that is that the expectations are definitely attainable.
It may take a little bit of time with this schedule they have. They have this monster schedule again, and so many new pieces. But, Tom Izzo, if he is painting a picture, sometimes you look at the picture when it's half done, you say, what the hell is it? But by the end when you put down the brushes, you have a masterpiece.
No, I agree, and that's why it always baffles me why people question him so much, because it feels like we go through the same thing every year where, people will be questioning what he's doing, and then you like, oh, that's what it's about. And for me, I just always felt like everything that he does is calculated and geared towards March and maintaining and winning during the tournament. I mean, the schedule that he plays, he's playing NCAA caliber teams.
Yes.
Whether it's home or away, like, he don't care where it is. And again, everything is geared towards making a tournament run.
Anyone, anywhere, anytime. That's been the mantra here. And it will be as long as he's sitting on the bench watching the other team warm up.
No, I can only imagine. We talk about it, but he knows a whole lot better than we do what he has coming back and what's in store and what it could be. So I can only imagine how excited he is about next season.
Yeah, exactly. You don't normally spend a ton of time in the summer over at Moneyball, right?
Right. I will this summer because the excitement warrants it.
Yeah. There's so many people we don't know if they have a couple of players coming in. Maybe we've seen them play in high school. At least we know who they are.
Right.
We know what they can do. Does anybody really know what Ethan Taylor can do, or Josiah Jervis, or Anton Bach? I mean, these guys, they didn't even know what Caleb Glenn can do.
You know what I'm excited. I recently saw some videos of Jesse McCullough working out this summer.
Tell me.
And I think I'm gonna have to find it so I can send it to you. But he looks very impressive. So I'm excited to see what his improvement will be from last year to this year.
Yeah, he is a guy who shoots it really well for a big.
Yes.
Now, he had strides he needed to take, no question about it. He needed to become a more aggressive rebounder. He needed to turn the motor up a little bit more. He didn't have to install a motor the way that Xavier Booker did.
Right.
But, there were some things that had to change. And I was impressed with Jesse McCullough not going into the portal, not saying, I didn't like this or I didn't like that and feeling down and picked on. And he said, I got to get better.
No, I would agree. And I think, again, that goes with the culture of what's going on here, because I feel like equally Kerr Tang was in the same situation where he was, kind of beat down a little bit.
Yeah.
And joked upon about, not being able to be guarded by Izzo's mom. And that could be a thing that could send up. But I always feel like, again, when players come here, they know what they in for.
Yeah.
I always feel like as long as you have a balance, like we hear people talk about how much coach is on the players, but it's the things that I feel like they don't see and how much he also loves them.
Right.
That really helps and forms that balance that makes guys want to be here.
Well, they say that people have to know how much you care before they care how much you know, right? And that's the case with Tom Izzo.
I agree.
Yeah. Last thing for you, what is on the agenda for Sweet J this weekend? Where will people see you?
Man, I had a great weekend planned, but I had something come up. So I was planning on going to the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
At Central Michigan this weekend, but I had my grandson is with me. We still might go.
Yeah.
But he may want to do something else, and I'll cater to that. So the plan was to go to the Special Olympics.
You're big on the Special Olympics, and you are.
It is huge. I like hanging around those kids. I have a relationship with some kids who actually participate in it.
Right.
And I'll tell anybody, if you ever are feeling like you having a bad day or your life just isn't so wonderful, go hang around these kids, and they'll change the way that you think.
Jay Green, Spartan Dog for life. Former MSU receiver, and one of the most positive people you will ever meet. I want to thank all of our guests, Alex, starting with Jake Boss Jr., MSU baseball coach. Appreciate all of his insight about the Chicago White Sox, his favorite team. They are hosting the Tigers this weekend in Chicago, Wright Field. Of course, Michigan State making a little run in the Big Ten tournament. That surprised some people, including Purdue. Connor Eargood of the Detroit News. Appreciate him joining us, of course, covering Michigan State football and basketball and hockey, you name it. Paul Shaheen, as our Chicago bureau chief, talking about sports in the city of Chicago and his beloved National Hockey League, getting ready for the Stanley Cup final. Deshaun Tate, our Lansing-bred Atlanta-based basketball savant. Tate's Take Hoops, where basketball lives. And Jay Green, proud Flintstone Spartan Dog for life. We will see you Sunday night on Press Pass with Paul Shaheen. Have a great weekend.